Yeah. Thank you very much, Martin, and good afternoon, everyone. This is such an honor for me. I've been coming to D.I.C.E since the beginning, and I think this conference is at its best when we get some of the top creative minds in the gaming industry to interface with great creative minds from the entertainment world, and we certainly have that today. It's good to be reunited with my friend Hideo Kojima. Great to see you. And Guillermo del Toro, it's such an honor to have you here at D.I.C E because as you guys will find out if you don't know already, you are a very passionate gamer. We interviewed you for the Making Metal Gear Solid 5 last year, and the details you know about Mr. Kojima's games absolutely blew me away. So I'm going to sort of try and step out of this and really just guide the conversation and hear you guys talk about your love of games and love of each other. Mr. Kojima, let me just start with you and this relationship and friendship that you and Guillermo have developed. I think a lot of people will be curious about how that happened. You guys live an ocean apart. You speak different languages. How did you first meet each other? And just before we get into the questions, Mr. Kojima is going to hear a translation in his ear backstage. So there'll be a bit of a delay before he answers, and then we'll go from there. All right, Mr. Kojima.
最初に、直接お会いしたのが2008年のヘルボーイ2の時に来日されてその時だったと思います。
I believe the first time we met was in 2008. Guillermo was in Japan for Hellboy 2.
で実はその前に、MGS3 の発売の時にデルトロさんにメタルが好きなっていうのを聞いてコメントをお願いしてでそれを書いていただいたというのがあります。
And actually, before that, for the launch of Metal Gear Solid 3, we heard that Guillermo liked Metal Gear, so we asked him to write a comment for the launch for Metal Gear Solid 3. I think that's where it began.
で2009年ぐらいにデルトロさんのマンズケイブっていうおもちゃの家があるんですけど、そこに訪れてそこからちょくちょく行くようになって。日本に来られた時は一緒にご飯を食べたりカラオケ行ったりするようになってます。そういう仲です。はい。
And I believe it was in 2009. Guillermo invited me to his man cave where he keeps all his toys and everything. And ever since we've been keeping in touch. And when Guillermo comes to Japan, we go to have dinner and we go to have karaoke and whatnot.
で実はですね、1999年ぐらいにカエル・クーパーさんと一緒に仕事をしてましてでカエルさんも僕と一緒でもう強烈なオタクなんですよね。ですごく話が合うクリエイターです。
And actually, back in 1999, I was working with Kyle Cooper. Kyle Cooper is a huge hardcore otaku, same as me, so we have very deep conversations.
である時カエル・クーパーさんと、いつも映画の話とか特撮の話とかしてるんですけど、ヒデオにぴったりの人間がいるから紹介したいっていう話を、されました。
And well, one day I was talking with Kyle about tokusatsu and movies, and he said, "You know, Hideo, I know a guy that will match you perfectly."
でミミックっていう映画で、カエル・クーパーさんがデルトロさんの映画のオープニング作ったんですけどでデルトロっていうのを知ってるかっていうもちろん知ってるっていうことで彼とは絶対会うと思うっていうことでそれから数年後にお会いして本当にもう一目見た瞬間からこういう感じでした。
And well, back then, Kyle Cooper was working on Mimic, on the opening of Mimic, and he asked me, "Do you know Del Toro?" And I was just like, "Yeah, of course I know him." And he said, "Well, I'm very, very confident that you two would get along perfectly." And well, he was right because several years after that we met, and ever since we met, it's been like this. So.
Yes, and we are basically the same generation. He's 63, I'm 64, and for whatever insane reason. In Mexico in '64, we were getting the same cartoons, the same anime, the same Ultraman, Space Giant. We were getting Kometo-san. We were getting everything. And when we met, we had watched the same shows as kids. And when we go to karaoke, we sing anime themes. I sing them in Spanish. He sings them in Japanese. We don't understand shit. But once you have a few, karaoke is fantastic. And the beauty is that we come, I think that we share that link of culture, but we also share sort of a passion for melancholic ideas, and at the same time, those are executed in big action genres. So there's a lot of good connections. He sings a lot, but eats very little. I sing little and eat a lot, so it's a perfect match.
You can see the friendship right here. Let's talk about the work, though, because you guys have such a tremendous respect for each other creatively as well. Guillermo, you have played, a lot of Hideo's games over the years, even before you met him. Is there a certain moment or, a game or a character or something that you think really speaks to why you respect Hideo so much creatively?
Well, I think that Hideo always was pushing the form. Even at its earliest, we were born. Probably Hideo also played with the first thing called the telepong, which I played when I was a kid. We were born with video games and we were raised by video games. But what I love is one moment that stands above any other is the moment where Psycho Mantis started reading my mind and I actually got scared. It shows you that I'm a terrible wuss. But also it was a moment where he broke the barrier of the screen. It was so innovative. It was feeding off data of the console. It was so shocking for me. And the creature actually influenced me a lot in creating Cronin on Hellboy. So it was a perfect moment. It crystallized my admiration for him. But ever since then, I think that Hideo has chosen a medium in which he works not only as a designer and director, but he also works as a filmmaker and a writer. He brings lyricism and literate ideas, complex character mythology. It's really a world that is so complete, and it's a world that you can recognize his voice the moment you're playing the game. So that was key for me. That moment freaked me out.
Hideo, have there been any moments, or I'm sure there have been in Guillermo's films, that sort of speak to why you respect him so much as a director and a creator?
全部好きなんですけど、デルトロさんの映画は。
I like all Guillermo's movies.
3つ選ぶ。
Not mimic. Come on.
デビルスバックボーンとパンスラビリンスとヘルボーイが特に好きなんですけどね。
I especially like Devil's Backbone, Pan's Labyrinth, and Hellboy.
毎回びっくりさせられるんですけど、一番びっくりしたのは、
And every time I'm surprised, but the one time that I was especially surprised
パンスラビリンスの
in Pan's Labyrinth.
もうこれはね、すごいです。
This was impressive.
キャラクターがいて、それでも十分おぞましいんですけど、これをすることで別のキャラクターになって、なおかつキュートだったっていうか。
There was a character, and on its own self, it was very scary. It was a complete character, but with this element, it became even more scary, and at the same time, it became kind of cute.
でデビルスバックボーンの、少年の幽霊がいるんですけど、水で溺れた。それが非常に怖くて悲しくて優しくて、美しいというか、そういう感覚のホラーというか、その映画は今までなかったと思うんで、そこがデルトロさんの、作品の魅力だと思いますよね。
And also in the Devil's Backbone, there's this ghost of this kid that gets drawn, and this ghost is scary and sad and tender and in a way beautiful all at the same time. And there was not a movie like this before. It's something really special that for me it defines a lot of what Guillermo makes.
あとヘルボーイが好きなんですけど、ヘルボーイが好きな女の子が男性とデートしているところで横のビルから石を投げて邪魔するっていうね、すごいなと思いましたね。
And also in Hellboy, there's this girl that Hellboy really likes, and she's dating another guy, and he just gets jealous and throws a stone from a building. I was like, what is this?
あとヘルボーイ2もなんですけど、ヘルボーイとエイブがバニー・マニローの曲を聴いてるっていうそういうシーン、ああいうキャラクターがそういうバニー・マニローの歌を聴いてキュートな 演出っていうのは今までなかったと思うんで、そこはもうびっくりしました。
And also in Hellboy 2, you know, where Hellboy and Abe are singing this song of Barry Manilow together. You know, having this kind of characters, having these kind of moments, I don't think there was such a thing before this, so that's really special.
まあデルトロさんの映画ってグロテスクなところとかバイオレンスもあるんですけども、それだけじゃなくてやっぱり美しくて短美、日本語で言うと短美なんですけど、そういう作品っていうのは他にないと思うので、デルトロさんならではの、映像美プラスその、作品のまあそういうコンセプトというか、そこに惚れ込んでますね。
So in Guillermo's movies, you always find something grotesque, elements of violence, but at the same time, you always find something beautiful, something in Japanese it's called tambi, something that is erotic and beautiful and aesthetic at the same time. And I don't think there's anything like that outside. So that's something that makes Del Toro's movies really unique and special.
We also are united by toys. Because he has toys that I want very much, and it's a friendship of convenience because we give each other toys in exchange every visit, and when we're in Japan, you know, it's good to see his collection and know that you know, I have something to look forward to that I don't have, you know.
Prized collections.
僕も一つマンズ警部行くとどうしても欲しいレプリカがあるんですよ。デルトロさんがその映画の撮影のレプリカっていうか、その撮影に使ってたやつをお持ちなんですけど、2001年の春と、サンゲリアのスタチューなんです。これゾンビ2のスタチューなんですけど、それをいずれいただこうと思ってます。
I also have to add, I think this is a good moment. Every time I go to your man cave, you have the replicas. So Guillermo has to give some context. All these replicas used in his movies from the sets. And you have that figure of Sangeria from Zombie 2. I will someday put my hands on that one.
One day, when I die.
Sneak it out. You guys clearly have a great friendship or relationship. This is a games conference, and one of the things, Guillermo, I think we're so honored to have you here to speak about, you know, how Hollywood looks at the games industry as well. And there's this interesting, you know, I always find interesting that a lot of, you know, big name film directors have such a respect for gaming. And J.J. Abrams has been here. You know, we know Steven Spielberg, other folks play games. You certainly love and play games. When you look at the gaming medium, and certainly Hideo's work you're a fan of, but you're also a fan of a lot of video games, where do you see gaming sitting on sort of the artistic spectrum compared to the film industry today?
Well, I mean, I think we all belong in industries where it's a marriage of creation and financial. And in that is very restrictive. They are very similarly restrictive now, I think. There was a moment where it was the pirate seas, but it's no longer that. And the language becomes very uniform, you know, where people are talking about posters or marketing on movies, and you're talking about box and concept on video games. And I really think it's a pity, but it's a marriage that happens in every big industry. And what happens is the storytellers look ahead to see what they can discover, and the money people look back, thinking, where are we going? I don't know. That's the safe route. So it's a tension there. But narratively, you have minimalistic games that are just gorgeous. You have very complex games that are very cinematic. But it's evolving so rapidly because, like audiovisual stories, the consumption is changing. You know, the patience and the attention span and the immersion into the experience is changing according to the platforms. You know, the same as movies. Now that you have portable, a lot of the more lucrative games can be shorter, less immersive, less ambitious in certain ways. But in others, like indie cinema, you have beautiful indie games that are subtle, that are poetic almost, you know. So it's limitless. It's only limited by the bastards with the money. So, you know, what you can do with the medium is amazing. And I think that as the tools become more democratic and more available, games are going to be coming out without the need for huge budgets like indie movies are. But I think that we are rapidly approaching, and I've said this for the last 5 years or 6 years, the mono-platform world, where you have your movies, your games, your information, your internet, completely interactive. Not just in the same platform, but they actually merge and make the experience unique. Obviously, Hideo, one of my biggest admirations for Hideo is how he's ahead of the curve and he's thinking about next console, next technology, consumption, the way it's being done, and how to adapt. That's creators. Studios in the gaming and the film industry are like dinosaurs coming to the edge of a cliff, and they try to stop and take the turn, but it's so heavy that it's very. Hopefully we'll go. Ah! But you know the thing is, creators help maneuver and change the direction. So it's a very good moment to be creative and independent.
No, even when you guys collaborated on PT, where you had that demo, it was so cool. People were solving puzzles online. That was sort of, to me, was a great example of what you could do with Twitch and some of these streaming platforms. And it was, you were already pushing the medium in new directions with that, Hideo. Let me ask you, Hideo, from your perspective, I mean, we know that you're a huge admirer of film. And I think a lot of people wondered, hey, would you go off and do film after the last game, not go back into games? What do you respect about the film industry so much, Hideo, that you can't accomplish in games right now? Is there something that you think films can do better than games?
まあゲームの良さはインタラクティブなんですよね。で、映画は100人がいれば100人それを見るっていうことなんですけど。
The beauty of games is in its interactivity, you know, and movies. If 100 people see it, 100 people will see the same movie.
逆に言うとゲームはインタラクティブだからこそ伝えられない、伝えにくいことがあります。
And that, in other words, means that games, because they're interactive, there are things that are really hard to convey through because of this interactivity.
もうプレイヤーがしたくない行動とか行きたくないところ、なりたくないものにはなれないので、そこが映画とゲームの違うところですね。
So whenever you cannot force the player to do things he or she doesn't want to do, you cannot take the player for he or she want to go, or you can't force them to be something they don't want to be. So that's the biggest difference, I believe, between games and movies.
あるいは自分の専門以外のこと、例えば医者の手術をするとか、法廷で弁護士となって戦うとかっていうことは一般の人にはできないので、それはやっぱり映画の方が今のところは有利ですね。
Another example would be, for example, let's say when a doctor has very specific surgery, or you have to fight a case in court. Well, you know, you need very specific knowledge for that. So that's something that is better, I believe, better portrayed through movies than through games as of now.
例えば「エイリアン2」の最後の方でリプリーがいて、ニュートがマザーエイリアンの巣のところに行ってしまって助けに行かないといけないシーンがあったと思うんですけど。
So, for example, in Alien 2, towards the ending, you know, there's a scene where the character has to go to the mother alien, towards the mother alien there.
で、自分が例えばプレイヤーだとそんなとこ絶対怖くて行かないんで、行かないはずなんですよ。
But in a game, you know, the player wouldn't ever go there towards the mother alien at that point.
でも映画はリプリーと一緒に行きたくない見たくないけど一緒に行って、ミュートを助けて、そこで初めて母性っていう感情を一緒に共有するっていう、そこが映画のいいところで、ゲームはやっぱりそこまで本当に怖がらせるともう腰を抜かして前に進まなくなるんで、そこが今のところの、課題ではあります、ゲームのね。
But in a movie, because it is a movie, as an spectator, you know, you're forced to follow replay to save this character, to fight, to go towards mother alien, and at that point have this feeling of as a mother. And if you do this in a game, you know, the player just won't go in there. You cannot force the player to go in there. So I believe that's one barrier, one thing that movies can do that games can't.
Guillermo, do you think, have games made you a better filmmaker or storyteller?
Well, they have certainly influenced me a lot. I mean, when I see an action sequence on Hideo's game, or when I get lost in the soundscape or the color of BioShock, of course I try to. You can see the saturation of my color and the very free way I use color palette. Concretely, for example, on Pacific Rim, very much so. I use very saturated colors. I try to not light realistically. I use, but they've influenced me as much as Mario Bava and Italian horror cinema or Hammer or many, many other things. What is great is that they are part of the conversation as a creator. There are games that have made me cry. Others have made me be afraid. Others have literally made me throw the controller and say, I'm gonna go eat and I'll come back later, because I get so nervous or so excited. So they are part of my feedback, emotionally and artistically, as important for me as any other platform or any other medium. The important thing for me is that it needs to be that we still talk about games and movies both as entertainment products and art, because they are both. A film as an entertainment piece doesn't need to be analyzed or contextualized. You see it, you experience it, you leave it behind. But as a piece of art, it's worth analyzing and revisiting. And I think games rarely get revisited like that, or there is no theory. And we are so busy with the news, analyzing what's new, rating a game, giving reviews, that I think that we need to go back and revisit those games as pieces of narrative and talk about where we were starting. I remember a game in the prehistory of the CD-ROM. A game that was hugely influential for me was a game called Gadget on CD-ROM, and it was a game that I saw appear in other movies, textures, colors, because audiovisual artists are very aware. We are like magpies, we see the world, we collect shiny things, we bring them to the nest, and we arrange them in different ways, but we are feeding off each other. So games as a narrative form, I think it's time right now, it's a good point of inflection to reflect on them as a narrative piece of art.
Great point. It's also sometimes challenging because technologically you can't always go back and play the old games, or they're not backwards compatible, things like that.
Well, I keep all the consoles, man. I can.
That's because you have the man cave. That's right.
Yes, the man cave allows that.
Yes. Hideo, you have obviously gone through quite a career transition, we can say, over the past year. And I think everyone's, wondered, that's a point of inflection for you, like Guillermo was saying. You could have decided to go off and do something completely different, go make a film. You could have gone off to do comics, but you've decided to go off and make another big game, partnering with PlayStation, start again, build it, you have to figure out what engine you're doing, what the game's gonna be, build a team. It's a huge, ambitious thing. And I wanted to ask you, why did you make the decision to go right back into making another big video game? Because you could have done, this was the point where you could have gone off and made a film.
30年間ゲームを作ってきたんですけども、最初は1年間ぐらいインディーズのゲームとか小さな映画とかあるいは小説を書いたりしようかなと思った時期もありました。
Well, I've been making games for 30 years, so at first I thought, well, I'm going to take 1 year to make a small indie game or a small movie or write a novel or something.
世界中の友人とか知人に会っていろいろ話をしているうちにですね、皆さん同じことを言われるんですよ。ヒデオは世界中にファンがいて期待をして待っている新作を待っている人たちがいるんで、そんなことをしている時間はないと。今すぐにでも大きなゲームを作って皆さんを喜ばせるべきだというふうに もうほとんど皆さんに言われて、でなるほどということで、そういうことで、今回、もう一度でかいあっと驚かせるようなものを作ろうということで今スタジオを立ち上げたということになります。
But then I talked with friends and acquaintances from all over the world, and pretty much everyone said the same thing. You know, everyone told me, you have fans all over the world. There are a lot of people expecting to see the next big thing from you. So I'm sorry, but you don't have time for that. You have to go back and just already start working on something big, because that's what people expect from you. And I thought, well, they have a point, because pretty much everyone told me the same. So, well, I changed my mind and start putting a team together and start putting a studio together, which is what I'm doing right now.
What advice would you give him,
Guillermo? We exchange emails. Some of them cannot be quoted. But what I said to Hideo is, he's a creative powerhouse,
right?
And that he would go through the tough transition and come out, I think, a better artist.
Yeah, what did you make of, what he went through last year? It was such a, I was with him in Japan, and there were times where, people I don't think realize the conditions under which Metal Gear Solid 5 was made. With him, in an isolated room from his team, finishing this game, and it still is, up for Game of the Year and one of the most acclaimed games of last year. You've been through creative struggles, working on films and other things.
Yeah.
But, what was your take on that from an outsider's perspective?
Well, you never know. Sometimes hard experiences produce great work.
Yeah.
Sometimes hard experiences don't produce great work. But the only thing that we can do is go through the hardship. You cannot give up, Yeah. And you just hope that he stays the course. It gets really, really difficult at times. He talks about Pan's Labyrinth being a film that he loves. It was, other than Mimic, it was the toughest movie I've ever done. Really, everything that could go wrong kind of went wrong. And at the end of it, I was 100 pounds lighter, not anymore. And I was like sleeping 2-3 hours a day, not anymore. But it proved to be worth it.
Right.
So we all have these clashes.
That's, part of what I'm sure you told him last year was to inspire him to keep going, right?
Yes. Yes, we, in so many words that cannot be quoted, that include the word fuck, yeah, and so forth, and others.
さっき楽屋でもその言葉を聞きました。
Yeah, I just heard those words in the backstage.
Well, one thing we should talk about, Guillermo, since we're here at a games conference, and over the years you have certainly toyed with the idea of making games. I remember back when you were working with
the idea toyed with me.
That's true. Well, Danny Bilson you were working with on Insane, I remember,
Yeah.
And then Hideo, and you obviously had PT or Silent Hills, which
God
everyone
damn
was
it.
very excited about happening. And you have sort of said, I think, previously that you're sort of done with games. Now you had so many hard.
Well, except with this man.
That's like, all right.
I'll do whatever the fuck he wants.
Okay. Would you like him to do anything, Hideo?
Yeah. Yeah. No, look, I'm like the albatross. I go to DHQ, they fucking break, they go broke. I go with Kojima, you know what happened. Next game we're gonna do, his fucking teeth are gonna fall out. We do something together, he's gonna be urinating and he's gonna hear something drop in the toilet. I don't know. I'll do it, but when I'm 52 and many pounds over, and the only thing I'm interested in are things that motivate me. I don't care about what the monetary or fame or result are. It's just having fun.
Yeah.
And with this guy, I always have fun. So whatever he says, I'll do. Other than that, screw that. Because I'll go into the building and it'll explode. Something terrible.
So, Hideo, would you want to work with Guillermo again on something?
それはもちろんですよ。
Of course, I'd love to.
もうすごく減量できるような辛いゲーム作りを一緒にゲーム作りと映画が分かりませんけど、何でもいいですから。
He said yes.
I don't care what it is. It's gonna probably be hell. It's gonna probably be really tough. It's probably gonna be a game or a movie. I don't care, but we'll do it together.
Yes.
Well, tell us, you collaborated for a while on PT Silent Hills. I mean, that was an interesting collaboration, I'm sure, between the two of you. Even though the game didn't come out, I mean, what was that like to sort of collaborate and work together?
Well, we had great plans. We had great ideas that I think would have done fantastic stuff. But the great thing about PT is Hideo, when we were looking at the PT, he said, well, we're going to do this low tech, we're going to do this so that people don't know it's us until the ending. So it's going to be kind of crappy, like this and that. And it was fantastic. I mean, the results were amazing. And that was him not putting the foot fully on the pedal, you know?
Yeah.
So until the end, we were supposed to, the quality improved when Norman Reedus came on the screen, the resolution improved, the tools got better, blah, blah, blah. But the PT itself was meant to be sort of a decoy. And we were thinking people would take 10 days to solve it, 2 weeks, and they solved it in like 3 days.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember that because you first showed me, it's like, oh, we're going to turn the frame rate down, or people don't realize who was making
People
it.
don't think it's an independent studio, blah, 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 yeah.
Well, Hideo, for you, what was that like getting to collaborate finally with Guillermo? You were friends for many years, but actually how did he make that demo? How did he make it better? What did he contribute?
Ito Junji.
そうですいやもう楽しいですよ本当に
It's
やっぱり
really fun.
刺激があるとそれだけいいものが出せるんでやっぱり一人でやっているとやっぱり同じようなことをしてしまうんでどうしてもやっぱり環境を変えたりやっぱりこういうデルトロさんみたいな刺激を与えてくれるクリエイターとやることで自分はどんどん成長しますし普段はしないようなこともするようになるんでそれはもうすごく面白いですね。
Well, it was really motivating to work with him. If you are always working in the same environment with the same people, you always end up with the same kind of stuff. So, it was definitely a good shake-off, good change of environment. Working with him made me grow so much. And, working with someone else, you are forced to do things that you don't usually do, which is always a growing experience. So it was great.
仕事の合間に、映画の話とか特撮の話とかアニメの話とかいろんな話ができるんでそれも情報交換できるんでそこも非常に楽しいですね。
And also, when we're not working, we can talk a lot about movies, about tokusatsu, and all these things. So it's also a great way to exchange information for me.
Guillermo, you once said that you refer to yourself as a well-financed 10-year-old.
Oh, yeah.
Which is, I think, speaks to the fanboy in all of us. You get to do a lot of
A very weird 10-year-old.
a weird, well-financed
Yes.
10-year-old. How do you go about picking the projects that you want to take on now? I think a lot of talented creative people that have name brands like you and Hideo, have tons of things that you could do. As you said, you have to pick and choose. What is that mental process you go through when you're thinking of what ideas?
Well, I wish it was that lofty, I wish it was like, what will I wear today? There's only one fucking suit in the closet.
Exactly.
You open the closet every project, you bought 12 and there's only one. And that's the one you make. I mean, I wish I could command the movies I want to make, there's always, the movie that gets made because it's right at that time. And it doesn't matter. Anything else is completely haphazard. I think that when people say, why do you have 6, 7 things going at the same time? Because one of them fucking happens.
Right.
Not the 7, not the 6, and I learned this the hard way. When you think about projects, you think about something that came out on the trades. That's it. When you hear about it, whether it happens or not. In between, I worked 2, 3, 4, 10 years on that thing. And sometimes, most of the time, they don't come through, Right. I've written or co-written 24 screenplays. And I've only made 9 movies. And for any of you that have tried your hand at screenplays, that signifies 1.5 to 2 years per screenplay. Working, developing. In many others, I design the world, I do maquettes. So there's about a quarter of my life that has gone into projects that didn't happen. But, they don't happen for the right reasons. Or they happen for the right reasons. I think that's the important thing. The important thing is that you engage with those stories for the right reasons. And if the conditions are not ideal for them and they don't happen, you are at peace. But now and then one comes that doesn't happen and completely chews your fucking heart and spits it out, and then you have to pick up yourself and keep going. That has happened also a few times.
Hideo, for you now that you have new Kojima productions, how much freedom do you feel? I mean, the movie industry is a little bit different, I think, in games, and most of your projects, when you think them up, I think hopefully they come to fruition. But how much freedom do you feel in this new structure that you're going to be able to design your own world, your own game, or how much of the pressures of business do you feel that Guillermo talks about in the Hollywood system? Do you still feel when you're thinking of your new game?
非常に自由ですよ今は。
I feel extremely free right now.
なんですけど、すごく小さなチームで大きなゲーム、とんがったゲームを作ろうとしています。
But I'm trying to make a big, very edgy game with an extremely small team.
ソニーさんと最初プロジェクトやるんですけど、なので、作りたいものを作りながらもユーザーの皆さんに満足してもらいつつ儲からないといけない、そこのプレッシャーはあります。
And for my first project, I'm working with Sony, so I have to do something where I'm doing exactly what I want to do, while at the same time it's something that satisfies the fans out there, and at the same time it sells. So yeah, I have to be careful with this.
ただヒットさせるために自分の作りたいものを曲げたりっていうのは絶対しないですね。だから自分の作りたいものを皆さんに遊んでいただきたいものを作りつつ、それをヒットさせる仕組みというか仕掛けを考えながらやろうと思ってます。そういう意味では自由ですね。
But I have no intentions of ever changing anything I do in order for it to be a hit, to sell more. That's something I wouldn't ever want to do and I'm not going to do. So I have to create something that I want to play, something that I want people to play, and within that, figure out ways that it will be appealing to the market, that it will be a successful game. But I can't make those adjustments. I choose them. So in that regard, I feel extremely free.
Do you think game creators have more freedom right now than film directors?
I don't know. I mean, I think that there's only one freedom you have, and to say, screw this. I'm not doing it, or I'm doing it, and committing yourself. I mean, I think that other than that, you have the freedom to be ambitious. That's extremely important. I think that it's rather, if you are ambitious and you don't fully succeed, there are still going to be parts of your work that are pushing or that are beautiful like nothing before, And I think that ambition is vital, and that's the freedom we have. I think that if they give you a $2 million budget, you can dream of making the movie look like $20 million. If they give you 30, you can dream of making it look like 70. But not only on the budget, also in tackling things that no one else is tackling. I always engage, Hideo was quoting some moments from the movies, I always engage with the most strange impulses. I'm going to do a big action movie, but yes, they're going to have a beer and sing Barry Manilow. I'm gonna have a giant robot versus a giant kaiju movie where the heroes are not a single race and a single gender, that are, the impulses are never quite the same. Or I tackle the most popular genre in the world, Gothic romance. I'm kind of crazy that way. I just follow my impulses, and that's the freedom that you need to have. All the other freedoms are conditional. You can fight for them, they can give them to you, they can take them away, but the one to be ambitious, you should never self-censor yourself. I think success, I've said it many times, is fucking up in your own terms. So I'm very successful, I guess.
You guys are also, pretty voracious consumers of, content, and as you know, your man cave or watching a movie, but all of whatever you indulge with. I wanted to ask you, I think one of the things creative people always face a challenge with is sort of balancing sort of consuming media versus actually, creating things, right? And I mean, you guys watch tons of films, comics, games, but you also spend a lot of time writing screenplays, things like that. How do you balance that time, your sort of creative time versus your consumption time? Hideo?
その24時間しかないんですよね。
I mean,
1日。
you only have 24 hours in one day.
で、世の中のテクノロジーが進化したり、不老不死になろうがどうしようが、1日24時間っていうのは変わらないんですよ。
And no matter how much the technology advances, no matter if I all of a sudden became immortal, we still only have 24 hours in one day.
なんでその24時間の使い方が一番重要になってきます。
So the most important thing becomes how to use those 24 hours.
で、忙しいので24時間、例えば睡眠時間を置いといて、その睡眠時間の他を全部ものづくりに入れていいものができるかというとそうではないです。
So, and when you get really busy, putting aside the time when you're sleeping, if you put aside that time, then can you be focused all the rest of the time in creative endeavors? And the answer is no, you can't.
いろんな映画を見たり本を読んだり人と会ったり家族と過ごしたりすることのインプットがあって初めてアウトプットが出てくるんで、その刺激がなくなった時にやっぱりものづくりは停止してしまうと思うので、なるべく中に入れ込みながら、時間のバランスを取るようには心がけています。なので、睡眠時間が一番削られるんですけど。
You need time to watch movies, time to do what you want to do, time to be with your family, time to have all those inputs, and with those inputs, then you have time to put on your output. So that is the balance you have to take. You have to put things that you consume, that you put in order to be able to have an output. If you don't have any motivation, anything to put outside, then there's nothing creative. So in the end, what ends up being eaten is the time that you sleep.
True. I think that you have to be incessantly curious, but also I think that we could dedicate all our day, all our life to consuming culture, and we would still have a huge blind side, to culture from the past, to what's happening right now. You have to be selective on what you're watching, and you have to be decisive about your blind side. There are certain movies or certain type of movies that don't call you and you don't go, But when you go, what I try to be is a very conscientious audience. I try to watch the things I love or read the things I love or experience the things I love with complete, my complete being part of that experience. When I watch a movie, I am evaluating many things at the same time, but the main link is emotion. So sometimes you find inspiration in art where you least expect it, in a set, on an opera, on a corner of a frame on a comic book, on a moment on a video game, but you also find it in life. And I think that we are coming to a point in which we gotta be careful to have our virtual life and our real life, which is becoming more and more precious. And I think that you also have to make time for that. You have to make time to sit down and just talk about nonsense for 20 minutes with someone you love, So I think it's a difficult balance. I don't think anyone has it, or anyone has ever had it, So it's part of being human.
Well, before we wrap up here, you talk about inspirations. I mean, are there any games or films or anything else that you guys have really been inspired by recently that you would tell people here that they should go out and check out? Could be something recent or anything. Dan, any games, films recently have spoke to you?
今年2ヶ月経ちましたけど、面白かった映画サン・オブ・サウル、ハンガリーの映画です。
Well, this year it's only been 2 months, but a movie I really liked is the Hungarian movie Son of Saul.
カメラがですね、このぐらい寄ってるんですよ。常に主人公に。
The camera is really close constantly to the main character.
フォーカスがこの辺にしか合ってないんで。
And the focus is only
この辺がほとんどピンボケで見えないです。
So actually, the rest of the
で
the
この
camera
ま
is
ま
so
カメラ
blurred
が
out,
一緒についていく、長回しのカットが多いんですけど、
and most of the cuts are the camera just following the main character like in this fashion.
でアウシュビッツが舞台でその遺体を清掃したりする人の、ゾンダーコマンドっていう部隊にいる人のサウルっていう人の話なんですよね。
So this movie takes place in Auschwitz. It's about the Sonder commands. This character Saul is part of those commands.
この映画がすごいのは、映画ってそのフレームの中に情報を入れることで表現するんですけど、その映画はカメラの中に収めない、プレイヤーのイマジネーションに投影するというか、実際の絵を見せずにその恐怖とかを、表現しているので、非常に面白かったんで、ぜひ見てない方は見ていただければと思います。
Now the impressive thing about this movie is that in a movie you always you convey anything by putting information into a frame. However, this movie doesn't put all the information in the frame. On the contrary, it starts painting the whole picture outside the frame of the movie, and that was really impressive. So I strongly recommend this movie.
ゲームにも使える手法だと思います。
I think it's a method that you can also apply in gaming.
Yes, true. Well, if you want to know what I'm watching or whatever, go to my fat Twitter account. There's a lot of, I recommend a book and a film every day and an artist and all that, but...
Is there anything gaming-wise that you've liked?
Gaming, I will review. I'm stuck on Fallout 4 right now.
Todd might be able to help.
I'm getting killed a lot. But it's just for me the thing that I experienced this year was I was part of the jury in Cannes, where Son of Saul was awarded one of the top prizes, and it renewed me. All the movies that I saw there that got the awards, Carol, D.I.C.E, Son of Saul, yeah, great movies. One that I think is called The Cost of Life, a French movie, amazing. So, I'm renewed every time I see a great movie, but if I had to say more recent, I would have to be chauvinistic and say The Revenant, because of the level of ambition. And it's a movie that, like all the movies that we discussed together, Alejandro, Alfonso, and I was very close to the gestation. We were talking about the bear scene in pre-production, and Alejandro was pushing and pushing, and Alfonso and I said, well, then I don't know how you're going to solve that, the final part. Because we were saying, well, and then when he throws, spoilers? Okay? Yeah. When he throws Leo down the ravine, you cut. And he says, no, I want to stay with him until the ravine. And we said, I don't know how you do that. And in editing, seeing the scene put together, I was blown away. And then I saw the movie in editing many, many times, and yet with Ryuichi Sakamoto's score and all the sound design, when I finally saw it finished, it still blew me away again. And I'm amazed at a movie that is ambitious at a cinematic level like that. So that I found extremely life-affirming.
Fantastic. Well, guys, thank you so much for taking the time to talk with us today. Guillermo, thank you so much for coming up today to be part of this. And Hideo, thank you so much for all that you've done. It's great to have you here live with us. We missed you in December, and it's so good to hear that you're on a path to being creative, and we can't wait to see what's next from both of you.
Gracias.
Thank you very much. Guillermo and Hideo Kojima. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.